Welcome back to 5 Acres Honey Farm. I'm Tara Lynn, and I'm giving a little recap of my experience at the 30th Annual Organic Grower School Spring Conference, which is held just north of Asheville, North Carolina in Mars Hill, and right on the campus of Mars Hill University, actually. I'll share some footage from the conference, but before we go into that, I'll share a few logistical tips that I feel like helped in kind of the comfort and just ease of the day of the experience there. And after we go through some footage, then I will share some kind of like gold nuggets that I feel that I learned from the conference. So logistically, I booked, early bird registration, which was great because then it was kind of all taken care of and didn't have to, worry about not getting a ticket or anything like that. And I've gone to this conference before. I have a separate video about why I love this conference. And as soon as I had booked the conference ticket, I booked my hotel. And there is a Comfort Inn pretty much like maybe a mile from the college campus. And it's kind of a run-of-the-mill hotel. It's not a 5-star or a 4-star at that rate, but it's just really convenient to stay there. So that was just kind of like logistically great to get out of the way. If you haven't attended this conference before, the Mars Hill campus is fairly spread out. So some of the tracks are in larger lecture halls, some are in small classroom settings, and some are demonstrations outside or in kitchen spaces. So you're walking around a college campus or strolling around a college campus, depending on how you get around. And just to allow for how are you going to feel comfortable being exposed to the elements and getting to places in your own way. So I had kept a close eye on the forecast, and I feel like, with the clientele that the conference attracts are, gardening folks. So I feel like we all kind of keep a good pulse on the weather. And so I saw that it was going to be fairly rainy and a little bit chilly, in the 50s, really shy of getting up to 60 degrees. So I specifically wore waterproof boots, and I brought an umbrella, and I wore a hoodie, and those things really helped because at one point of the day, I got these 2 blueberry bushes out there, and I'll share a little blueberry tip in a moment. But I was carrying both of these blueberry bushes, and I was carrying this bag of mushroom spawn that I got from Mushroom Mountain's booth, and I was carrying my notebook, my water bottle, and I couldn't at that point hold my umbrella, so it was really nice to just be able to put my hood up and bring everything to the truck and get it loaded. So that stuff really helped. I had also scoped out different places to eat. This year, the conference was not providing food, and instead they had 2 food trucks. But when I saw the forecast and knowing how food trucks are set up, I personally knew I did not want to stand out in the rain and the cold when I'm hangry, waiting for food, and then trying to figure out where I'm going to sit and eat my food and everything. So I noticed that there was a little shop in town, and I'm forgetting the name. I believe it's Wild Violet, but I'll link to the restaurant after this. And it's a little vegetarian vegan shop with a cute kind of like retail spot underneath it, and smoothies, tea, salads, really great food. And I had scoped that out in advance. They typically aren't open certain hours in the off season, so I had noticed on their social media that they were going to be open special hours because of the event. With that in mind, probably my fallback option would have been to pack my food in, whether that would be like homemade things, or if I was going to pick something up in Asheville, and the hotel I was staying at had a fridge, so I could have easily put it there. Plus it's really a drive-in conference, so I could have just brought a cooler and done that. So just keeping that in mind, like logistically, I had really not made plans for breakfast, which I semi-regret because I saw on the schedule that there was going to be coffee on site, so I assumed there was going to be like a selection of baked goods. It was a selection of cookies, which is fine, but it's really not a hearty enough breakfast for me so that I could feel like I could concentrate on the sessions. They also had some kind of like trail mix snack bars. So with a combination of those, I was able to get by, but just as like if you're a planner like me, or you just want to be comfortable during the event and just focus on learning and meeting folks, it's probably a good idea to like pack some snacks or pack your breakfast in, or make some kind of arrangements for that. Let me share a little bit of the footage from the conference, and then I'll share some little tidbits plus a little bit about these blueberries and some more in that respect.
Arrived at the 30th Annual Organic Growers School Spring Conference at Mars Hill University. This is about 20 minutes north of Asheville, North Carolina. And I'm just charging my phone because I didn't bring my charger for the hotel last night. And then I'm going to go to registration, visit some vendors. And the first session I'm going to is in the forest, I think it's the forestry or forest farming track for the morning. And I'm looking forward to sharing some more, as this is my third or fourth time attending this conference, and it's always fantastic.
It's competition.
Before I dive into the sessions that I attended, I do want to share the little blueberry thing. So I had planted a half dozen blueberry bushes here about 5 years ago. It's pretty much like 5 years ago this month, I believe. So by now I feel like I should be enjoying the fruits of that labor, and every year I get excited when I see the flowers on the blueberry bushes, and I've never seen a fruit on them. So I learned a few months ago that you can't plant the same type of blueberry. You need to plant different varieties of them for them to pollinate. And I thought I had everything all set because I've got the hives here, and I thought I would have fantastic pollination, but I didn't know that a really important fact. So I have all of the same kind planted here, which is Robeson, and I have been on the lookout for other varieties. And so I kind of like told myself as a concession for like a reason why I should get more plants, and because there are so many plants available, I feel like in every direction. I want to be a little strategic about what I'm purchasing and planting this year. So I got 2 different varieties of blueberries to add to that area. So I'm planning to put these in the next few days, and so that's a little tip I learned about blueberries, and hopefully that helps. The sessions that I attended at the conference were an intro to forest farming track, a DIY feed track, and then I went to advanced woodland botanicals, which was also in that a more broad forest farming track. A few gold nuggets that I learned from the intro to forest farming track, and this kind of applies beyond forest farming. The presenter, David Brown from Mountain Cove Forest Farm, he shared that he will get those little white landscaping flags, and when he's out on his property or helping others on their properties, they'll put those flags out, and instead of using a Sharpie, which can fade in the weather, he purchases an actual paint pen. So I didn't know these existed, and he said that these will withstand a lot of the elements so that things won't wear away. One thing he also suggested, which I have heard before, is when you put that marker down, to label it with a number, and then have a notepad with you or your phone, and have an app open where you're just taking notes, and put that number and whatever that plant is. In the other track that I was in, the Advanced Woodland Botanicals, which was run by Janine Davis from the North Carolina Ag Extension, she had shared just use the GPS on your phone, and that just seems so logical that I mean it just seems so simple that you could just do that. So if you are on your property or somewhere else, and you're trying to identify something, and then maybe in a different season when it may not look the same, or in the winter when it may not even have any aerial parts above the ground, you could use your GPS then to locate it. So I thought those were some really great tips, very simple, that can apply beyond just forest farming. Another tip, which also is a little bit more universal beyond just forest farming, that was mentioned in Janine Davis's session is to put up cameras and just have cameras up, because for some folks who might be growing some more rare botanicals on their property, or who want to protect and conserve what's already natively existing there, and just for general security, just add more cameras. And that actually made me think of a beekeeper friend of mine, and she had explained that she had acquired a large piece of property in western North Carolina, and it has been used for hunting for many years, because the previous owners really weren't confining the space, so there's a lot of people using it without permission. So she's been putting up a lot of cameras, and having those cameras do motion sensor alerts to her and her family, so they can deploy a drone and that can go out, and usually that will deter folks to leave immediately. And then if these are repeat offenders, if they are seeing a drone, that would hopefully prevent them from coming back. But in her case, she was able to actually press charges because she had the video footage, she had their vehicle information and all that type of stuff. So if you are concerned, about what you're growing, or even with beekeeping, protecting your hives, there are cases every year of people's hives getting stolen. People just, who knows who drives up. A lot of people will keep their bees maybe near the border of their property, just to kind of keep the bee traffic to another space, and that might be near a road, and someone could easily just come, whether it's in the dead of night or during the day, and take the colony. So having some cameras up can be great for every aspect of your gardening and homesteading life. I also went to a session by Billy Bond of Permapastures Farm, so you might follow him on YouTube, and he's based in western North Carolina, and his session was on DIY feed. And I really went into that session fully expecting to learn what can I plant and what kind of forage, and thinking of the scratch grains that the chickens enjoy. I can grow maybe some peas and barley and maybe some field corn, and just make my own scratch blends for the chickens. That's what I was thinking. I was thinking of learning about the right site placement for these different crops. And I was really blown away. His presentation was about growing pretty much nothing and feeding your livestock for free. And it was, about creating partnerships with restaurants and bakeries and schools to use and actually put to good use the food waste, and that's no longer waste at that point, that it's actual food for your livestock. And he went through some really great tips about how to approach different establishments and the right timing to do that, which I thought was really strategic. If you follow his channel, he's just extremely strategically minded person. So I'm going to link to, actually they recorded the session, so the full hour-and-a-half session is available on YouTube on his channel, so I'll link to that below. Highly recommend grabbing some snacks and some coffee, and just sitting back and learning a bunch from that. Outside of those sessions, I only attended one day of the conference. As an introvert, I feel like that's enough input and interaction for me. I have attended multi-day in the past, and I really just let the schedule kind of dictate that. If I would have seen maybe right now what I'm interested in, if I would have seen more variety on the next day that would have been worth staying another day, I might have done that. But for right now, I was again, super satisfied with the programming, met some really interesting people, and I just really love these events because I just, no pun intended, organically meet great people throughout the day. It's just kind of it's when you least expect it, but then basically it's constantly happening in all of the sessions. I really can't recommend this conference enough. Thank you for listening to my experience at the conference. I'd love to hear if you were at that same event, or if you have some other events on your calendar for this year. I have a separate video about all of the different workshops and conferences I plan to attend this year as of right now, and I really haven't added anything to that list. So if there are some other events that you recommend, whether they're in North Carolina or further away, please let me know, and I would really love to hear about them.